Hey riders, welcome back to the world of RidezoneBikes. The camera fades in with the low rumble of an engine, and in the shadows a powerful silhouette takes shape. The Yamaha badge gleams under the spotlight, and right there in the middle of the frame sits one of the most iconic muscle cruisers ever built, the 2025 Yamaha VMAX. Welcome back to RidezoneBikes, where we dig deep into the machines that define power, style, and road presence. Today, we are diving into the VMAX, a bike that doesn't just ride the road but dominates it, a motorcycle that has stood for decades as Yamaha's wildcard, the one bike in the lineup that seems built more for bragging rights than practicality. The 2025 edition keeps that spirit alive, but with refinements that keep it relevant in a world that is demanding more sophistication and safety features without sacrificing raw attitude. At the heart of the VMAX sits an enormous 1679cc liquid-cooled V4 engine, a beast of a motor that has been the soul of this bike for years. It pushes close to 200 horsepower, peaking around 197 bhp at 9,000 revolutions per minute, and a thunderous 166 Nm of torque at just 6,500 revolutions per minute. These are numbers more often associated with superbikes than cruisers, but Yamaha's approach has always been different here. The VMAX is about explosive acceleration, tire shredding mid-range, and an experience that feels almost unhinged when you open the throttle. It is not subtle, it is not trying to be polite. It's unapologetic power served in a body that looks like it belongs in a comic book panel. You roll on the gas and it surges forward like a jet being catapulted off a carrier deck, and for many riders the sensation alone is worth the price tag. Speaking of price, the 2025 Yamaha VMAX carries an MSRP of around $17,999 in international markets, with Indian pricing hovering around 27 lakh rupees ex-showroom. Of course, depending on where you live, taxes, duties, and dealer costs will push those numbers up, but even at that level it is important to understand what you're paying for. This is not a cheap daily commuter or mileage-friendly city machine. It's a flagship of attitude, a statement bike. And Yamaha knows the kind of customer who comes shopping for a VMAX isn't thinking about fuel efficiency or resale. They want something loud, bold, intimidating, and unique. That uniqueness is baked into the design. Just look at it. The VMAX is muscular in every sense. The air scoops, the hunched-over tank, the wide rear tire, the stubby yet aggressive exhaust system, and the sheer bulk of the frame create a stance that makes it look more like a piece of industrial art than a conventional motorcycle. It tips the scales at around 310 kilograms wet, which means it's no lightweight flickable machine, but the mass is part of the personality. When you see it at a stoplight, it looks more like a living engine with wheels bolted on than a typical cruiser. Every angle screams aggression, and for a lot of riders that is the appeal. You don't just park a VMAX, you stage it. The riding position is low and commanding with a seat height of about 775 mm, so you feel planted despite the bulk. The bars reach back toward you, the footrests keep your legs in a comfortable forward stance, and that massive tank sits up high like a reminder of what kind of power you're straddling. The cockpit mixes digital and analog elements, a clear digital speedometer paired with a classic analog tachometer that swings wildly when you pin it, giving you that visceral feedback old school riders still crave. It's not packed with cutting-edge electronics like traction control maps or ride-by-wire gimmicks. Yamaha has kept the VMAX simple, more raw, and in a way that's what suits the bike's personality. What you get is ABS as standard, quality dual-disc brakes up front, and a fat single disc at the back to bring the beast to heel. The brakes inspire confidence. But remember, this is 300 kilos of metal and muscle, so stopping distances will never match lighter sport bikes. Performance on the road is exactly what you would expect from the numbers. Twist the throttle and you get instant thrust. The acceleration is ferocious from a standstill, and even in the mid-range it feels like a rocket. Top speed varies depending on markets and restrictions but comfortably sits north of 200 km per hour. Which is absurd for something this heavy and this styled. The shaft drive system is another unique trait. While many performance bikes use chain drives for their efficiency, the VMAX opts for shaft drive, which makes it smoother, quieter, and less maintenance intensive. That means you're spending more time riding and less time worrying about lubrication and adjustments. A small but significant selling point for riders who want brute performance without the fuss. Handling is where you have to understand the compromise. At over 300 kilos with a long wheelbase, the VMAX isn't designed to carve tight canyons like an R1 or dance through traffic like in Mountain 9. It's built for stability, straight-line confidence, and that unstoppable surge of torque. On highways it feels planted, almost unshakable, and on sweeping bends it holds a line solidly. In city traffic, however, the weight can feel overwhelming. Parking lots, U-turns, tight maneuvers all require care and respect. This is not a beginner's bike, and Yamaha doesn't try to market it as such. It demands a rider who knows how to manage weight and power together. Fuel economy is predictably modest. You're looking at somewhere in the ballpark of 11 kilometers per liter, give or take depending on your riding style. With a 15-liter fuel tank, you get just enough range for spirited weekend rides or short tours, but this is not a cross-country machine in terms of fuel stops. Again, the point isn't efficiency. The point is every liter you burn feels like it's been transformed into raw adrenaline. The sound deserves its own mention. The VMAX with its stock exhaust already has a deep, thunderous growl that shakes windows when you roll past. It's not obnoxiously loud, but it has presence. That V4 character means you don't get the potato thump of a Harley or the scream of an inline-4 superbike. You get something unique, a sound that sits somewhere in between but carries its own unmistakable identity. Riders often say the sound is as addictive as the acceleration, and after hearing one in person it's hard to disagree. For 2025, Yamaha hasn't reinvented the formula, and honestly they don't need to. The VMAX has always been about heritage, attitude, and rawness. What they have done is keep the bike refined where it matters. The fit and finish are premium, the paint schemes are sharp, the components are robust, safety features like ABS keep it compliant with modern expectations. It's not chasing trends like TFT screens, radar cruise controls, or adaptive suspensions. Instead, it stays true to what it always has been, the muscle cruiser benchmark. So who is this bike for? If you're a rider who wants a practical daily machine, something light, fuel efficient, and easy to manage in traffic, the VMAX isn't your answer. If you're looking for a touring bike with bags of comfort, endless range, and pillion luxury, again, this isn't the one. But if you want to own a piece of motorcycle mythology, if you want raw V4 power in a cruiser stance, if you want to turn heads every single time you roll up to a stoplight, the VMAX is unmatched. It's not trying to be everything to everyone. It's trying to be unforgettable to the few who get it. Pros are obvious. Nearly 200 horsepower in a cruiser package, breathtaking acceleration, a design that's as much sculpture as machine, and Yamaha's reputation for engineering reliability. The shaft drive and low-maintenance aspects add practical value. The cons are equally clear: heavy, thirsty, expensive, and not very versatile in tight city scenarios. But for those who want it, those cons don't matter. They want the beast, they want the bragging rights, and they want the thrill that only a VMAX can deliver. So that's the 2025 Yamaha VMAX, a living legend that refuses to be tamed. It's not the most sensible bike you'll ever consider, but it might be the most memorable. Let me know in the comments what you think about it. Would you buy one? Would you rather go for something like a Harley Cruiser, or maybe a big sports tour? Don't forget to like the video, subscribe if you haven't already, and keep your notifications on so you don't miss our next deep dive. This is RidezoneBikes, and until next time, ride safe, ride hard, and keep the rubber side down.